On behalf of myself and the Gentleman Artist Studio, I would like to wish you a safe and happy Independence Day. And on this occasion, which celebrates liberty and the founding of the United States, I would like to unveil some of the portrait paintings from our Founding Fathers collection. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin. It has been my pleasure and honor to paint these portraits because, like many of you, I regard these men as heroes. And that's a challenging thing these days, because there are some who would like to remove them from history or would like to tear them down as heroes. It begs the question, what does it mean to be a hero? Why do we call people heroes? Does it matter if we have heroes? To be sure, each of these men were complicated in their lives. They lived contradictions. They made some choices that I may not approve of, or you may not approve of, as if our approval even matters. Of course it matters to us. But the lives these men lived, taken as a whole, did far more good than harm. For example, it's true, George Washington was a slave owner. It is also true that while he had no legal obligation to do so, he honored slave marriages and kept slave families together. He also refused to sell slaves, even when it would have solved his perpetual money problems. He is also the only one of the Founding Fathers who owned slaves to have emancipated his slaves during his lifetime. What are we to do with these contradictions? What does it mean? Slavery is one of the greatest evils that mankind has ever perpetuated against itself. And yet slavery has been nearly universal for all of human history, as near as we can tell. What do we do with that? What do we make of that? I honestly don't know. Thomas Jefferson also owned slaves, and he did not emancipate his slaves during his lifetime. Yet he is the one who wrote in the Declaration of Independence that all men, without exception, are created equal. We take that idea for granted now, but that was a radical idea in his time. He also introduced legislation in the Virginia Assembly, even before the United States was founded, for the abolition of slavery. That legislation was defeated, but Jefferson introduced it, even while owning slaves. I don't know what to do with that either. Benjamin Franklin owned one slave, as far as I know, and he also repudiated slavery. Though he didn't emancipate his slave, he sold them. Yet he created and funded a school for free blacks in Philadelphia. These are just a few of the contradictory examples of things that these men did, some of which we may approve of, others that we may disapprove of. What are we meant to do with that? If anything, it demonstrates that history and human beings are far more complicated than some people would like to think. And I'll give you a personal example. My first ancestor in America was sold here as a slave. His name was Daniel Robinson. He was born in Blair Athol in Scotland. He was taken as a prisoner of war after the Battle of Worcester in the English Civil War, and he was sold as a slave to a plantation in the Connecticut colony. Take that for what you will. But it's yet another example of the complicated nature of history and human beings and social issues. There's far more nuance and detail and context that we need to appreciate and evaluate when we come to our decisions about how to feel about certain things, what sides to support, what policies to enact. Very few things are as simple as we'd like them to be. So on this Independence Day, I wish you happy independence. All those who enjoy freedom, all those who love freedom and love their country, and who are beneficiaries of the decisions made by men like these,